You know those times when money is really tight? When you're looking at that next bill and you're just not quite sure how you're going to pay it. And suddenly the whole world seems to come about money. You check your bank account. You look at what's going out. You start adding things up in your head. Can I afford this? What about that payment? What if something else comes up? And it's amazing how quickly your whole body can join in. Your shoulders tighten, your breathing changes. You suddenly become more vigilant. And perhaps without even realizing it, you start holding on, not just to money, but to the feeling of having money. And today I want to explore something really interesting about that. Because what if when we become focused on that shortage of money, it doesn't just affect the money that's leaving our lives. It also makes it harder to remain open to money coming into our lives. I'm Damien, and welcome to Somatic Abundance. You know, if there's one thing this podcast is about, it's really about one simple question. What does abundance feel like in the body? Because we spend an awful lot of time talking about manifestation, about the law of attraction as something we think, we visualize, we do the affirmations, we imagine, we do the vision boards, we write our journals, we try very hard to believe. But what I'm interested in is what happens underneath all that. What is your body doing? What is your nervous system expecting? And what happens to your relationship with money when you begin to feel there isn't enough? Now, I do want to be clear about something. I'm not suggesting that if money is genuinely tight, you should just stop worrying about it. Bills are real. Bank balances are very real, and they all need to be reconciled. And sometimes there genuinely isn't just enough money. And being sensible with your money is not scarcity. But there is something else that can happen. You can become somatically organized around shortage. You know that feeling? You look at the bank account and you don't see a number. You feel something. A disappointment, a tightening in the stomach. Perhaps your chest contracts. Perhaps you take a slightly shallower breath. Perhaps you suddenly feel like you need to hold on to everything. And the last one is particularly interesting. Because when we're frightened that something is going to run out, our instinct is to hold on to it, to grip it. Don't let it go. If you think about it, that does make perfect sense. If you've got $100 left in the bank account and you don't know where the next $100 is coming from, of course you're going to be very careful about how you spend it. But there is a subtle difference between I'm choosing carefully where my money goes and the mindset of I have to hold on to this because there isn't enough. One is a financial decision. The other is a bodily state. And those two things can easily become tangled together. This is where I'd like to introduce an idea that we'll explore in the somatic experience later in the week in full. What if you could remain financially responsible without having to embed the feeling of shortage? What if the money could leave your account without your body interpreting that as a loss? Because money leaving isn't necessarily money disappearing. It might be moving. You pay the electric bill. The money moves into the electric company. You buy your lunch. The money moves to the person who made your food. You pay someone for their work. The money moves. And then that money moves again. And again, and again. Money is constantly moving through the world. And when we become frightened of shortage, we can start experiencing every movement away from us as a threat. And that's where the body begins to grip. So rather than telling yourself you have plenty of money, when your bank account is telling you something very different, I would like to try something much simpler. We're going to work with the body. I'm going to give you just a little taste of it now. You can do this sitting wherever you are. But before we begin anything else, I'd just like you to notice, just bring your attention to one thing right now. And perhaps if you're thinking about money, you'll notice that your attention has become quite narrow. That attention is focused on the bank account, the bill, the payment that's coming up, the amount that's left. It's almost as if the rest of the world disappears for a moment, and that's understandable. When something feels important, especially when it feels threatened, our attention can become very focused. So, I'd like to experiment with something just for a second. Keep your eyes looking straight ahead, and without moving your head, just become aware of what you can see at the edges of your vision. You don't have to look out at anything. Just notice the space out to the sides. Perhaps the movement, the light, the shapes, the room around you. And notice that you can keep your attention on what's in front of you, while also becoming aware of what's around you. You don't have to stop looking at the problem. You're simply allowing your awareness to become a little bigger than the tension. To take a slow breath and let that wider awareness be there as you breathe out. And perhaps notice what happens inside you when your attention isn't quite so tightly focused. Maybe there's a little more space. Maybe your shoulders soften. Maybe your breath changes. Maybe nothing happens yet. That's completely fine. We're simply giving your body another possibility. Because sometimes, before we can change our relationship with money, we need to stop letting money become the entire field of our awareness. You don't need to close your eyes. Just bring to mind a recent payment. Something ordinary, perhaps a bill, something you bought, and notice what happens in your body when you imagine the money leaving. Don't change it, just notice it. Why does your body tighten? Where can you feel that money leaving in your body? And now, take a nice comfortable breath, and as you breathe out, see if you can soften just any one part of that response. Not all of it, just one little part. Maybe your shoulders, your belly, your hands. And now, rather than imagining the money disappearing, imagine it moving, leaving you and moving somewhere else. Feel the difference. Money leaving, money moving. And now imagine money coming back towards you. It doesn't have to be a huge amount. Just imagine something, a payment, a sale, a gift, a refund, anything. And notice what happens in your body when you start receiving. Do you open? Do you tighten? Do you feel relief? Just notice. because this is the beginning of the practice. We're not trying to manufacture some enormous feeling of abundance or wealth. We're just simply trying to create a little more space around money, a little less gripping, a little more movement, and perhaps a tiny reminder that money can leave and money can arrive. And that is what we are going to explore much more deeply in the full session. I'm going to take you through a full somatic experience designed to help you loosen that physical grip around money and reconnect with the feeling of flow. You don't need to think your way through it. You don't need to convince yourself of anything. You'll simply be invited to experience it. So if you've been noticing that familiar tightening around money lately, I'd invite you to join me on that experience, because sometimes abundance doesn't begin with getting more. Sometimes it begins with becoming a little more open to what is already moving. I'm Damien, this is Somatic Abundance, and I look forward to seeing you in the full session.